So I'm just going to use the flat iron just to really seal down the hair, because when I'm fine tuning it, if I really want it to be perfect, I want to make sure that I haven't left any kinks or anything in the hair. So as I'm going through the haircut and kind of smoothing it out, I mean, I had to rush through. I really wanted to finish on the live that I was doing. I really wanted to finish at least getting around the head so I could show you guys how I executed the cut. But one of the things that as I'm going through and fine tuning, you're going to see like some lines in there. And that's because I took larger sections due to time. And that's what happens when you are cutting and you think, oh, I'm in a hurry. I'm just gonna take bigger sections. Well, what happens is then you end up with choppy lines. So you end up with a lot more of fine tuning that you have to do. Which in this situation, I guess I didn't really care. It was more important that I was able to show how how I created the cut. So when I chose to use a paddle brush on Kristen's hair because her hair is so thick. On the top, it's not as curly, but it was thick and curly in the back. And I really needed it. I needed to flatten it out. So that's why I chose the paddle brush, because it has a nice flat surface that I can just utilize and just quickly get that hair flat. And one of the things I was doing was dry wrapping it. What I mean by that is that I was taking the hair and using the head shape to help me smooth out the hair. So I was taking the hair from one side to the other side to get the moisture, the wetness out. So I'm doing two things when I do that. One is, I've got my brush, so that's flattening out the hair. And then the head shape, it's using it as a form to form the hair as well and flatten it. So Kristen likes her hair on this side. And I talked a little bit about putting your own spin on things. One of the things that I am known for is I usually do a little slight asymmetry on some parts of the cut. So just to make this a little more fun, I'm going to create just a little bit of some asymmetry in Kristen's fringe and make it just real piecey and soft and sexy. And this drives me crazy. Oh, goodness. Choppiness. Those, that will disappear like magic. So I'm already looking at it. I'm probably going to bring that bottom up a little bit more because it's just too long for this shape, which is okay. Which is totally okay. A lot of times when I'm taking somebody, especially someone I've never done before, Kristen's, I literally have never cut her hair before. I got to play with it a little bit last night, so I got a feel for how her hair reacts to things. But you really don't know until you get in there and you start cutting how much it's going to bounce. So I chose to leave it a little bit longer. So there's times when I'm working in the salon that I'll see somebody cutting a bob, dry, and just cut it with the waves in it. Somebody's come in and maybe it's slept on hair and they just start cutting. The problem with that is that when that client goes home and they they start to play with it and they smooth it out. What happens to hair when it's curly? It it bounces up and it shrinks. So it doesn't give you a complete precise cut. So you're going to have a little bit of deviation. Now we're going to fine tune this a little bit. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and look down. I'm going to just bring this up just a smidge. My razor just. As you can see, it just looks a little bit too long. And when I'm looking at her face, I still like the flippiness to it, but it's a little bit too long for the width that we created here. And that's part of the beauty. You know, this is the part where your eye, your instinct, your vision comes to life. So when I'm looking at this, let me remind you of the inspiration photo so that we can be on the same page, especially if you were not on the live or you didn't watch the previous picture when I cut her. So here is our inspiration photo. This was the very first one. Make sure you can see that. Okay, and we decided once I met Kristen, that she needed a little bit more hair around the face. So she really liked this. She has a lot of fringe, so we wanted to go with this, and she liked this a lot. So I'm going to bring that back up a little bit. See how that balances a little bit more? Yes, we took a little bit more off around the face because as I was working on Kristen, I was really looking at her and I thought, oh, this is going to look good a little bit shorter because she's got beautiful eyes, beautiful features, and it just brings it out. So I'm just going to bring this up a little bit. And I'm just going to use my razor and I'm just going to just take my fingers like a claw and just pick up a piece and just kind of use the tip of my razor and just carve it off. So when you're using your fingers like a claw like that, it just helps you to not take too much, and it does make it a little bit more organic feeling. And I know I can do that because Kristen has a lot of curl in her hair. She's not going to go in and like make sure this is flat in the back. She's going to let her curl more than likely. She's going to blow dry everything and just let this be. This side here grows a little bit lower and it kind of grows to the center, and it's really causing it to look a little longer than I want. So I'm just going to take off this part of her hairline. It's very small amount, but it grows to the center. It's not really thick. It's real baby fine hair, and it'll just help even it up because it grew a little bit lower on this side. So here again, I'm just going to take my fingers just like a claw and just take it up a little bit. I'm working with my mirror in front of me. That's already looking just a little bit more, balanced with the width in the front. All right, so the first thing I want to do right now is she still is looking pretty thick in this area here. This is where she was thickest to begin with. So I'm going to use my razor because I just want to be a little bit more aggressive with it here. And because it is so thick and she's got strong growth patterns here, I'm choosing to use my razor here as well because I want to create some movement in here. And instead of, going from the bottom up, I'm going to go from the outside because I kind of want to push that in a little bit. Remember that short hair supports and directs long hair. So as I'm removing that weight, if it wants to split here and I want to make it not split, I'm going to go the opposite direction so that the shorter hairs will want to push that forward. You can already see that it's starting to loosen up. I just want to create some space in there. This is the thickest part of her hair. So, and when I'm doing it, I'm making sure that I don't cut below that first bend. You just pick up the hair and bend it. See how that starts to bring it a little bit to life. I'm just going to do that here in the back because that's where the thickest point is. So it's letting it go a little bit. Now I'm going to switch to these. These are actually some shears by Shark Fin. These are a 15 blade. These are good. I really want to create some space in her haircut, and that's what these are going to do. So if you can just Watch as we go. You can see there's a little bit of a line here. I'm just going to go in here, pick it up vertically. And there again, making sure I'm not going past the bend of the hair. And I'm just going to close it once and pull it out. And then come here to the end and pull it out. And then to the very tips, pull it out. And what that does is it breaks that up and creates that piecey vibe that we're looking for. I have one more trick up my sleeve for the very ends if I still see a line. Because one of the reasons we're seeing a little bit of a line there too is because, you know, Kristen's hair was long and she's had highlights, and this is where that blonde is meeting the dark. And it'll cause it to look choppy when it's not. So here we're coming in here and we're not quite as thick all the way through. So I'm going to break that up. I'm looking through it on the side and I'm just looking to see where it's thick, and I'm just hitting that area and letting it fall. The thing with using shears like this, you have to be careful. You can't open and close them because it will cut too much off and you're going to end up putting a hole in the haircut. So you can see how that's really starting to create some space in there. There again, I'm just using it in the areas that are really thick, or I want volume and I want height and I want to just release it and just create some space in that haircut. Okay, now on to the other side. I can't believe I caught that. I can't tell you how many combs I drop at work. So here, that's just looking a little bit thick here. Can you get a side? Can they see that from there? I want you to really see how that loosens that up. So there's one. You can see how that's coming out. And then I'm doing the ends. See how that just wakes that up. And that's what I mean by creating space. But when you look at how different that is when I pick that piece up. You can see through hair here, but you can't here. So I know I need to use it here, but not a lot. I'm going to use a different shear on there because she's not as thick. Remember, well, if you weren't watching the live as we were going through it, she's a lot thinner on the right side than the left. So I'm going to treat it a little bit different. Right in here is where I really need to remove some weight, but still maintain the length. So we're going to just kind of bend the hair. One of the things I'm doing too is when I'm taking my sections, I'm going with the round of the head as well, meaning, you know, the head's round. So that's what I'm thinking about as I'm cutting. Working with a pivot too, because the head's round. There's my thick place. You can see where I had to work fast to get that cut before the end of the live. Bend the hair. See how my scissors are kind of mirroring the head shape? That's what I'm talking about. And I'm also making sure there's I'm not going past this first bend. What happens if I were to cut that below that first bend? Then I'm going to cut hair that's just going to be too short, and that's where you have clients that say, oh, don't use a texturizing shear on me. I don't like what it does. And that's because it was used too close, probably, to the scalp. And the shorter the hair gets, the stronger it gets. And then they see these little hairs growing out, and it makes the hair go a different direction. Or they open and close it too much and remove too much. This is why you've really got to make sure that you know your clients and their texture of hair that you're working on. Here again, I'm working on a pivot. You can see the lines here. That's what I'm looking to diminish. Is the weight. I'm diminishing the weight and softening, creating movement so that she can get that soft, piecey, sexy vibe to this cut. There again, I'm bending the hair, but I'm mirroring my scissors to the head. And here she's got a lot of bulk there. So when I'm opening and closing it, I'm thinking about it. I'm not just opening and closing it. Here I'm moving into the front because I want to release some weight here in the fringe. You can see how that's really heavy. but I have to be really careful because she's got some space here in the front at her recession area, and that hair grows back and up. It's a very, very strong cowlick. She doesn't like it. So I'm just going to pull it up, and I'm going to let that drop out. I don't want to remove more weight there. Being very aware of that. Actually, it could go either way. Yeah, it's loosening up a little bit. All right, I'm just going in here. This is a side that I had to do a little bit quicker. I'm going to go in and kind of erase this line. Plus, she's got like a little bit of blonde that's laying against some dark that's just not looking great. So I'm going in and I'm just hiding that line there. I'm going to do that right here so you can see. I'm just using my razor like a pencil and just kind of softening the ends. And that's going to enable her to be able to tuck it and move it. Yeah, that's into life. Okay, now I'm going to be switching my shears. These are also by Shark Fin. These are a 30 blade. These are called the erasers. I use these all the time, even when I'm layering. But now I'm going to use these to go in and just hide any lines, soften any more, and just finish this haircut off. I'm going to use it as well in the fringe here to create a little bit of asymmetry. Here again, I'm using it just like I did the 15 blade, but I can be a little bit freer with it because you're not losing as much hair. Now I'm using it to, yes, remove weight. I don't want to remove the length. I don't want to create a lot of airiness to it. I just want to really, you're taking out a bit more hair closer together. So it gives it a softer look. And I just want to repeat that again. Like, I used the 15 blade because I needed to create space and airiness in the haircut. And now I'm creating that feathery, soft vibe that the haircut has. And yes, I'm still adding internal support. I'm removing weight as well, but they're closer together, so it's a lot finer, a lot softer. They call this the eraser for a reason. When I bring it in a little bit farther, I want a little volume. When I come here to the ends, I'm doing it to erase the line. You can see how that gives you, it gives the vibe, just like if I were to cut that with a razor, is basically what it's doing. And I'm doing the same thing I did with the 15 blade, mirroring the head shape. So right here, I just want to create a little bit of softness here and open that up a smidge. So I'm going to go in with my shears closed and set it in the wide teeth of my comb. I'm just going to go in at an angle and just softly feather that out. So like I said, when you're detailing your haircuts, this is where you're just, it's really not something I can teach you. It's just something that, it's your vision. It's what you see. You're putting your imprint on it. Like I said, I'm constantly looking in the mirror, checking to see how it's looking. This is, I'm softening out the lines from me taking too big of sections because I was working through a live and had to go a little quicker. So it made me have to have more cleanup work, which actually benefits anybody that really wasn't there for the live, that really didn't care about the whole thing, but wanted to learn how to fine tune. Here, I just want to soften it. So if you notice too, when I'm working with this, I'm working in steps. Think of it as kind of like you're putting a support system inside the haircut. So like there's a support that's here, and then this hair is laying over that hair, and that hair is laying over that hair. So it creates this soft bend. the softer I want those ends, the more I'm going to open and close it. You can really tell that we were a lot thicker on this side. That's just her naturally. So just like I did on the other side, but not put in my scissors, I'm just using my fingers and fanning the hair out and going in at an angle and cutting that off. I'll show you how I do that on this again, on this side. I'll do it a little slower for you. So I'm just using my third finger down here and kind of pushing the hair here so that it kind of fans out. And then taking my feather razor or feather shear or texturizing shear, whatever you want to call it. It's called the eraser from Shark Fin. You can go in at an angle and it just really creates that feathery vibe. Just like what it's just giving you the same vibe that you would get from a razor, pretty much. Here, she's still a little bit thick here. You like where we have this parted? Yeah, yeah. All right, so now we're going to create I want to open up a little bit here on the fringe. She had her bangs, we haven't really touched them. She came in with them like this, and I liked the length, like the way it falls, but I really want to piece this out a little bit. So I just comb the hair so that it's just separating that frontal bone area where the fringe wants to fall. And I'm going to create some asymmetry, and I'm going to create a guide here. And then I'm going to work pie sections, bringing everything to the last section so that it'll just move over to this side, and then she'll have a little bit on that side. And the angle that I'm going to cut, I'm using my feather shear, but I'm going to just kind of shift my fingers angled onto the head because I want to really remove weight and I want to remove length. But I want it to be shorter to longer. You can see that that's a shorter piece here and longer here. It creates the pieciness that I'm looking for. So I'm just going to work off a pie section here. Take my next section. I can kind of see where I was at before, so I'm just going to shift it up and just make sure that I'm just cutting that. You can see how that's starting to really become feathery. I'm going to take one more section. So I'm not taking the section with me. I'm taking the length of the shortest piece with me, because if I kept bringing a guide over with me, if I accidentally cut it, I'd end up cutting hair I didn't want to cut. So there's my length. There's the guide, because I'm working off a pie, and I'm just going to take that off. And as you can see, I kind of slide my fingers as I go, so it gives that piecey vibe. Okay, and we're going to do that to the other side. I'm just going to do that in one section. We don't really need a whole lot. And I'm being careful because of her fringe. I just shifted that out a little bit so I didn't cut any of that, any of the hair that's coming out of that calic area. You've got a calic on both sides, you know that, don't you? Yeah. The one on this side, I feel it's worse. On the right. It is. It's allergy season here, and I can so feel it. So this is looking so cute. Mm-hmm. So you're slightly asymmetry, but I'm liking it. I don't know how you're feeling about it, but I'm liking it. I'm just going to soften this line just a little bit here, and then this is just a little bit of a paste. It's got some, you can tell it's got a little bit of fibers in it because I really want to kind of piece it out and give it that piecey vibe. I'm just really working it in my hands, and I'm just going to work it in through the hair. And there again, it's really important to make sure that you tell your clients what you're putting in their hair, why you're using it, how to use it. They want to know. They want it to look just like it looked when you did it. And the only way they're going to know is if you share it with them. You look like a completely different person. Okay. And that is the final look. I'm going to spin her around so you can see it. So you can see how she's got that pixie vibe to it, but it's a little bit longer.